Good morning, it's that time again. 10 o'clock a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. We don't like daylight savings time. Daylight time in Costa Mesa, California. We're reading the Magick of Aleister Crowley, a handbook of the rituals of Thelema. We've just finished off the chapter talking about the traditional pentagram rituals. And now we're on chapter 5, the thelemic rituals of the pentagram. The little epigram is from Liber 65. Stooping down, dipping my wings, I came into the darkly splendid abodes. There in that formless abyss, I was made a partaker of the mysteries. A verse. As stated earlier, mastery of the lesser and greater rituals of the pentagram provides the magician with the key to the microcosmic elemental universe. Logically, one would think that the next task would be to gain mastery of the macrocosmic universe represented in nature by the 7 planets of the ancients. In Western Hermeticism, this greater world is symbolically depicted as a hexagram, with the Sun in the center and the 6 remaining planets, Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Venus, Mercury, and Luna, positioned at each point. Mastery of the hexagram rituals has traditionally been the next step in the magician's career. The influence of the elemental formula does not end at the borders of the microcosm. Indeed, it continues to be infused into all levels of consciousness. The most striking example of this influence upon the macrocosm can be found in the Enochian magical records of Dr. John Dee. In the Enochian view of the universe, each of the 30 aethers, or macrocosmic heavens, is ruled by 3 governors, except the lowest one, which is ruled by 4. Curiously, the names of these celestial governors are derived from the 4 microcosmic elemental tablets of the system, demonstrating a continuing and fundamental influence of the elemental formulae throughout the macrocosm. Clearly, there exists an untapped form of universal pentagram, which operates simultaneously upon both the microcosmic and macrocosmic planes, and that the newly released energies of the new aeon make magical access to these formulae now possible. To activate this vastly higher order of elemental power, Crowley created 2 rituals. Liber 25, the star ruby, and Liber 5, vel reguli, as thelemic hybrids of the lesser and greater pentagram rituals. They function as ceremonial exercises to invoke the energies of the Aeon of Horus. In these 2 ceremonies, the focus of the magician's consciousness is shifted from the earth to the sun, and from the human to the divine. No longer do we view ourselves as standing upon the surface of the earth with its 4 quarters ruled by terrestrial winds, or even at the intersection of Samak and Pei, like we talked about yesterday. We now identify ourselves with the sun, surrounded by the belt of the zodiac. In both rituals, the divine names attributed to the 4 quarters have become overtly thelemic. The star ruby retains the same active-passive positions established in the greater ritual of the pentagram. The active male deities, Therion and Hadit, are positioned in the active quarters, the east and south. And the passive female deities, Babalon and Nuit, are positioned in the passive quarters, the west and the north. In Liber Vel Reguli, the zodiacal landmarks of the four quarters are the fixed or cherubic signs. Taurus, Earth, in the east. Air, Aquarius, in the north. Scorpio, water, in the west. And Leo, fire, in the south. Of the triplicity of signs, the fixed signs are the most characteristically representative of the elements. Now here's a selection or a section on the thelemic holy words and divine names. And we'll hopefully get through this part this morning. Before we proceed to the rituals themselves, let us take a few moments and examine the various holy words and divine names unique to the magic of Thelema. To fathom transcendental concepts, one must possess transcendental illumination. Consequently, the holy words and divine names of the Thelemic pantheon defy adequate literary definition. As the magician's initiatory career evolves, so too will his or her capacity to understand and exploit the divine principles represented by the words. I do not presume to offer, nor am I capable of establishing orthodox definitions of these terms. I have been counseled by those whose opinions I highly respect that anything I say on the matter will be pitifully inadequate and will ultimately serve only to limit the reader's understanding. While I wholeheartedly agree this is true, I'm also convinced that the reader, if warned that the notes that follow are flawed, incomplete, and inaccurate thoughts of one who has not yet achieved any significant level of illumination, he or she may nevertheless appreciate a starting point for further study and meditation. First word we'll talk about, divine word, Nuit. See Liber Al Vel Legis, especially chapter 1. Nuit is the first deity of the Thelemic Trinity. Traditionally, the Egyptian goddess of the night sky, she is the, quote, star goddess, who is the category of unlimited possibility. These are Crowley quotes. Upon the stele of revealing, and in Egyptian art, she is depicted as an azure goddess, tall and slender, arching over the earth, similar in appearance to the Greek letter omega. There she is. She is conceptualized as the infinity of an ultimately expanded universe, the circumference of a circle. All things, therefore, are contained within her body. Now, Kabbalists may wish to consider the similarities to the second veil of the negative preceding Kether, or number 1 on the Tree of Life. Second veil of the negative, Ein Sof, or no limit. Second name, Hadit, the winged solar disk there at the heart of Nuit. See Liber Al Vel Legis, especially chapter 2. The second deity of the Thelemic Trinity is Hadit, lover of Nuit. He is depicted on the stele of Revealing as a winged globe at the heart of Nuit. He is conceptualized as the infinity of an ultimately contracted universe, the point in the center of the circle. A symbol that is prominently displayed in every Masonic lodge. But I digress. He is the ambiguous point of view, the only philosophically tenable conception of reality, Crowley says. Now, perhaps the concept of the pre-Big Bang negative singularity postulated by modern physics. Perhaps. Kabbalists may wish to consider the similarities to the first veil of the negative, preceding Kether, Ain, nothing. The third divine name, in third in the pantheon, Ra-Hoor-Khuit. See Liber Al Vel Legis, especially chapter 3. The third deity of the Thelemic Trinity, the crowned and conquering child of the union of Nuit and Hadit. As Nuit's expansion and Hadit's contraction are both infinite, so too must be their points of contact. This infinite contact creates the basis of possible vibration. Their child, Horus. The field of operation in which the universe can manifest. Okay, so in other words, we're dealing in infinities here. I'm digressing. We're dealing in infinities here. The infinitely expanded universe. And when I say infinite, that means you can't find the circumference. The best we can do to wrap our meat brains around the whole thing is to at least picture it as a circle. And circumference is nowhere found. The circumference, in a sense, is everywhere. Everywhere is everywhere. But the point, if we try to wrap our meat brains around it, the point is the center, the exact center of an infinitely expanded circumference. So in other words, if the center is infinite, the center is everywhere too. Get it? There was an ad on Nova or something advertising a Nova program that says, the universe has no edge and it has no center. Perfectly describing this. So if the infinite center is everywhere and the infinite circumference is everywhere, if the infinite center is everywhere and the infinite point is everywhere, they're both infinitely everywhere and touching infinitely. And that touching forms an ecstatic vibration, an ecstatic friction. And that friction creates the vibratory field of operation for the universe to manifest in. And that universe manifested is Ra-Hoor-Khuit. But I digress. This infinite contact creates the basis of possible vibration, their child Horus, the field of operation in which the universe can manifest. He is, however, known under a special name, Heru-Ra-Ha, a double god. His extroverted form is Ra-Hoor-Khuit, and his passive or introverted form is Hur-Par-Krat. Spelling variations found in Liber Alvel Legis include Ra-Hoor-Khuit, K-H-U-T, Ra-Hoor-Khu, K-H-U, and are indicative of important facets of the deity. Now, Ra-Hoor-Khuit Kabbalists may wish to consider the similarities to the third veil of the negative preceding Kether, Ein Sof Or limitless light. Also, Kether itself in one respect, because that infinite light contracts to a point, that point becomes Kether. He is the foundational archetype of the God-man and the Holy Guardian Angel. Okay, next words we'll discuss here are Therion and Babalon. See Liber Alvel Legis, especially references to the beast and the scarlet woman. It is clear that from an early age, Crowley was spiritually and psychologically traumatized as the result of his family's fanatical embrace of Christian fundamentalism. It was perhaps inevitable that an individual of Crowley's genius would eventually rebel against the stifling restrictions and the threats of eternal torment in which such cults terrorize their members. His childhood identification with the Beast 666 and his devil be my God bravado was his youthful declaration of independence, and for the rest of his life he had continued to enjoy shocking the shockable with such sacrileges. We must point out, however, that there are profound magical and Kabbalistic significances to these blasphemies that Crowley so cavalierly embraced in his youth, and these immeasurably outshadow his mischievous preoccupation with thumbing his nose at Christianity. The use of the names Therion, which is Greek for beast, and Babalon, the scarlet woman or great whore, is not unique in the annals of religious nomenclature. Together, they make their first and most notoriously misunderstood appearance in the book of the Revelation of John, the finale of the New Testament. A superficial review of this book presents us with what appears at first glance to be two shady, if not downright evil characters. But looks can be deceiving. And as is often the case with books of the Bible, the villain of the exoteric story is frequently revealed to be the hero of the esoteric interpretation. There's no need to enter into an argument of whether the beast refers to the man Aleister Crowley or to the office of the beast or to some universal principle. At one time or another before his death, Crowley wrote that they were all of the above. For our purposes, we'll simply attempt to introduce the concepts by drawing parallels to ideas with which the reader may already be acquainted. Therion, Babalon, as Chokmah and Binah. One and two on the tree of life. Chokmah, two and three on the tree of life. Chokmah is number 2. Binah is number 3. Doesn't sound so sexy that way, does it? Therion and Babalon as Chokmah and Binah. To the student of the Kabbalah, the easiest way to begin to understand Therion and Babalon is to conceptualize them as personifications of the second and third Sephirah of the Tree of Life, Chokmah and Binah, respectively. The second Sephirah, Chokmah, represents the original concept of duality and as such is the chaotic despoiler of the perfect unity of the first Sephirah. Kether. Chaos. Yes, quote, chaos, unquote, is another title of Chokmah, and in certain thelemic ritual is identified with Therion. Chokmah is also the divine will, the logos. Yes, the logos. The word whose vibration is the creative essence of the universe. As a supernal father, Chokmah, Therion, is the archetype of the lingam, the universal male. As To Mega Therion, his motto is Magus 9=2, Crowley is considered by Thelemites to be the logos of the Aeon of Horus. The third Sephirah, Binah, represents the original reconciliation and balance of the divine self, Kether, and the reflected not self, Chokmah. She is viewed as the all-receptive mate of Chokmah, and when they are united, the primary unity of Kether is realized. As Binah, Babalon, reside just above the abyss, she eventually receives unto herself the totality of the life of the evolving universe. This universal life is symbolized as the, quote, blood of the saints, unquote, which she gathers up into her great cup, or holy grail. This she shares with the beast, and they unite in drunken ecstasy. Thus she is called the great whore, for in her, quote, shamelessness, unquote, she receives all and refuses none. Therion Babalon as Shiva Shakti. To the student of yoga, or Tantric Buddhism, the easiest way to think about Therion and Babalon is to conceptualize them as the two polar streams of creation, Shiva, the divine will, the logos, who manifests in creative union with his divine consort, Shakti, the divine power and the underlying and secret force permeating all of creation. Babalon, Shakti, is the passive negative stream of nature. She is magnetic and attracts to herself the potential of energy. She absorbs and stores up the Holy Grail, or the Cup of Babalon. When the negative feminine Shakti comes into proper contact with the positive masculine Shiva, a dynamic reaction occurs, triggering the transcendence of their individual polarity, transforming them into Brahma, or the changeless one. This is the most important aspect of Therion and Babalon because it relates to natural energies and forces residing in our own bodies, slumbering in the form of a coiled serpent. At the base of the human spine is the Kundalini, a remnant of the universal Shakti. She has been separated and exiled from her Lord Shiva, who resides in the human skull, by the very process of creation. The task of the Kundalini yogi is to awaken this sleeping goddess and direct her ascent up the spine to eventual union with her Lord in the cranium. But one does not have to be a yogi or a Kabbalist or a ceremonial magician to achieve transcendental states of consciousness in the ecstasy of lovemaking or to temporarily annihilate the ego in orgasm. These are fundamental male-female realities of existence and consciousness, and they are an integral part of the cosmos, from the lowest hell to the highest heaven. More on this in chapter 6. Let's see if this might be a good place for me to stop today. Yes, I think I'm going to stop there. Everything else might be anticlimactic. I hear you groaning. Tomorrow, Saturday, anticlimactic. That's good, Lon. Tomorrow we'll start by looking at Aiwass and Ankaf Nakansu, the words Lashtal, Agape, Aumgen, Viaov, and Abrahadabra. That's where we'll start tomorrow. I hope you're enjoying this. I hope you're ready for a great weekend, everybody. Be careful. Continue to be good to yourself and be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law. Love under will.